Hi, I'm Maxine. I want to show you how I did this coloured pencil drawing of Antonia for a collaboration about COVID and being frazzled. I will put the link to that below so you can have a look at that. Let's crack on with the video. I want to start talking about the paper that I've used for this one. So I used the Winsor Newton pastel paper, and it comes in 6 different colours. I've chosen the light grey for this one because I think the skin tone really stands out on grey paper. It's 160 GSM. It's quite grainy, but it's good for pastels, so it's quite good for the pencils that I'm using as well. The pencils I use are Holbein pencils. They are Japanese and they're of really good quality. They are made up of oils and fats, so they are not waxed based like the Prismacolors, but that does mean that they can be mixed exactly the same way, and they can be blended and burnished in the same way that wax ones can. However, waxed once burnished can leave quite a shiny surface, so that's probably why I quite enjoy using the oil-based ones, because they don't have that kind of really super waxy look to them once you've burnished them. Burnishing is the very last thing you need to do when you're using your coloured pencils to make the picture look really smooth and a little bit shiny. The shine will depend on the pencils. Like I said before, the waxy ones will leave quite a waxy shine to them. The oil ones not so much. As you can see, there's quite a lot of different colours going into this hand. I've used beiges, I've used pinks, oranges. Some people have different coloured skin tones, so you know that some people have like a red based skin tone, so you'd want to put a little bit more of the reds and the oranges in there. Some people have a greener skin tone and you'd want to add some greens and possibly some blues in there as well. But Antonia's got quite a sort of a yellowy tinge to her skin tone in this photograph that I'm using. So I'm going for sort of pinks, oranges, yellows and reds. When you add several layers of coloured pencils to your paper, you're doing this super lightly, so then you're building up those layers and they're causing friction on the paper. And once you've built up your several layers, you can then use the lightest colour that you are going to use anyway, or even just, you can get a colourless burnishing tool. I think Prismacolor do them. I'm not sure about the other brands. They probably do as well. I tend to just use the lightest colour that I was going to use anyway. And you press down a little bit harder than you would have done before with the other layers. So pressing harder will then help to flatten the paper a little bit more, and it will grind the colours in together, so that then you've got a really nice solid colour on your paper. Once you've burnished, you can't really add more layers on top because your paper and your pencils have now made it nice and smooth. So then you've got this problem where you can't add any more on top because it kind of just slides around. It hasn't got that friction needed that the tooth of the paper has given you before with the other layers. I hope that makes sense. If you want any more information about burnishing, you can ask me in the comments below and I will get back to you, and maybe I'll do a separate video on burnishing itself. I'm putting the reflections in the glass first so I can gauge where everything goes. I quite like to do that. If it was a reflection, then obviously there isn't going to be many other colours underneath it, so I'm going straight in with the white, and then I can use that as my guide as to where I need to put the other colours. Almost like when you trace a picture and you've got your little guidelines down. That's sort of what I use the reflections for sometimes. Now in this picture I have used a grid. I don't often use the grid method, but I used it for this one because I really wanted it to be spot on, so that then it was exactly what we needed for the collaboration video. I did the collaboration with Shirley Serban, who is a parody singer. And she sang about COVID, and it was such a fantastic song. I highly recommend you check that out. I have put the link in the description below. Check that out after you've finished watching this video. It is a sped up version of this drawing, as the song is only 3 minutes long. It was really fun to do, and if you are an artist watching this, I recommend doing collaboration videos with people. It's actually quite a lot of fun, and it was really easy to do. We were on opposite sides of the earth, but we still managed to do it, and in super quick time as well, so give it a go. Anyway, back to the grid method. I have used the grid in this one. I really wish that I hadn't used pencil on the grid, because I completely forgot that once you've gone over with the coloured pencils, if they are light in colour, then they're not going to go over the pencil very well. As you can see in the hand, there's still some grid details in there, which I now can't get rid of. So don't make that mistake. I've got a little piece of paper which you can see that I'm leaning on, and that enables me to just scribble on a little bit just to see what colours I need to use for what area. So before I started the wine glass, I kind of just almost did like my own version of an eyedropper tool with my own eyes, and picked out the colours that I wanted for the wine glass, and then obviously the wine inside it as well, and then just dotted them down on the piece of paper next to me and put the numbers of the pencils next to me as well. The pencils do have names, but it's a lot easier to pick out the numbers as you can put them in numerical order. Not that I do mind, because I am not very organised. The area on this dressing gown was particularly difficult because I needed to make it look really fluffy. It's one of those really tactile areas that I wanted to look exactly like it feels. So I went in with the darker grey first to kind of outline those little squiggles where there's breaks in the fleece, and then the softest white that I had to put all the white areas in. And then I realised that there's a lot more depth to it than that. So then went over slightly with a beigey colour, and some of it then had a slightly grey colour over it as well, to then give it that extra bit of depth as well. Hair is a particular favourite of mine, and I really enjoy making hair look really realistic. So I'm starting off with one of my darkest colours. I am using the negative space, so where I know where the super light colours are going to be, I'm leaving a space so that I can fit those in without muddying up the colours with the darker ones underneath. I'm a tattoo artist, so this is generally what I do with the tattoos as well when it comes to doing beard hair or actual hair. Always using the negative space, because I can't build up layers in tattoos, so and also I can't erase areas either. So I'm not one of those people that will do lots of layers and then use an eraser to rub out any hair that might be there, because I'm so used to doing tattoos where I can't rub anything out. So I tend to do my drawings exactly the same way. Using the negative space is definitely my favourite thing to do, and it works really, really well. If you can get your head around the fact that you're doing all the darker areas first and you're missing out all the light bits, then you'll do fine. So as you can see, I went in with the darker areas, left out those negative spaces, and now I've gone back in and I've put some yellow through there as well. I will probably go back into those colours with a different lot of colours. I tend to just kind of flit around all over the place, checking that I've got everything where I want it to be. Sometimes I get really bored and I start on a new bit that may be a little bit more exciting to me. So once I've done, say, a really boring part of a drawing, I don't know, maybe some clothing, for example, I might find that just it gets a little bit too tedious. So then I will go and pick a facial feature that I'm really excited about. I try not to do the eyes too soon, because I absolutely love doing eyes. And if I do them too soon, then I tend to just get a little bit bored of the rest of it and leave it, and it never gets finished, and I end up with lots of unfinished artwork. But this one I knew I needed it finished. There was a reason why we did the wine glass first, not only because I'm left-handed, so I would work from right to left to avoid any smudging. I wanted to get the wine glass in first so that then it caught people's eye and it made a lot of sense with the song. Around the mouth area was actually really tricky because there was a lot of different skin tones in there. There was lots of shadows, and obviously the mouth was in a position which I guess we wouldn't normally draw a mouth that looks this way. We tend to draw faces with rested lips or just a slightly open mouth. But this, obviously, we needed to have a comedy effect, and it was such a brilliant expression. But there's shadows there where I wouldn't normally expect them to be, so it caught me out slightly, but I really just had to look at the reference photo lots and lots and really check out those colours and work out what colours I needed where. And you'll notice that I do go back to that area quite a bit to change the tone. I tend to find that when I'm doing a drawing of a portrait, sometimes you'll get the tone where you think it's right and you think your shadows are dark enough, but actually you go back and you look and it's not quite right. So then you can go over it and change the tone slightly, darken some areas, lighten some areas. That's the joy of coloured pencils. You can go back quite a lot of times before you ruin it. Graphite pencil drawings are definitely not as easy. With graphite pencil drawings, you can't keep going back over an area. You can darken areas up, but it's very difficult to lighten somewhere where if you've got a smooth shade and you wanted to lighten it up, for example, on a cheek, then you'd really struggle to get that looking a lot lighter without removing it with an eraser or something like that. But then you're going to fall into the trap of leaving rubber marks everywhere. With graphite drawing, you only get one shot with it. Potentially you could darken up some areas, but you wouldn't want to lighten them up. It's very difficult to do it the other way around. Whereas when you're doing it with a colour pencil drawing, you can lighten it up because you can go over the area with a lighter colour, or you can even change the tone by adding an extra colour over the top. So sometimes, say where I might have made the skin tone not quite yellow enough, I can then just brush over it really super light and just get that extra yellow on there, and that will then change the tones of the drawing. Keeping your pencils sharp is another really important point to make in this. If you don't have a sharp enough pencil, you're going to find that you won't be able to get into that tooth or the grain of the paper. You won't be able to get that really nice burnish on your drawing, and also you will find that your details just aren't coming out quite as you want them to if your pencil isn't sharp enough. When it comes to portraits, you really don't want to be putting any hard lines down. So even though your pencil is sharp, you don't want to be using it to line any areas. When you're layering up your colours from your darks to your lights, don't forget that there is almost like a maximum level of layers that you can put down. That will obviously depend on the grain or the tooth of the paper, because the more grainy and toothy it is, then the more friction you're going to get, so the more layers you'll be able to put down. When you've reached your maximum, you'll start to notice that the colours kind of start moving around on the paper a little bit the more you put on there, and you can end up kind of almost damaging your drawing. So if you do get to that point and you're slightly worried that you haven't got the right colour on there, you can really carefully scrape it back, almost like you do with an oil painting. You can scrape back the oils and then go over it again. You can do that with a pencil drawing as well, but just be really careful because you don't want to damage the paper underneath. So use a really, really sharp blade and just scrape it away ever so gently and just bit by bit. Well, I hope you enjoy this video, and I will let you watch the rest of it. And if you have any questions about any part of the video, or you're unsure of any of the things that I've spoken about, then please do leave a comment in the comments below and I will get back to you. Please check out my other tutorials as well if you're interested in learning how to draw.